Hello, welcome to the video. My name is S, and I love Game Pass. Yes, Microsoft's answer to Netflix, where you pay a monthly fee and get access to 100+ gaming titles, with that list being constantly changed and curated. Now, for many people, the idea of renting your games doesn't appeal, but for me, as someone who loves to try new games, Game Pass has paid for itself time and time again. Whilst the Xbox brand might have struggled this generation, there's no denying that Game Pass might just be one of the coolest and best deals in gaming. And truly, I think Game Pass has something for everyone. It's got shooters, platformers, RPGs. Most people will find something to enjoy here. Though there is one market that is slightly underrepresented. Considering that Game Pass markets itself as a way to save money on games, which could greatly appeal to families, it doesn't actually have many games for kids. Sure, there are games you could play with your kids on here, but what I'm talking about is those licensed kids games based on a popular IP that parents typically love to hate because they're often not very good. I mean, it's probably for the best. It's probably better that we don't get kids addicted to screens too early, but looking at what family-friendly games there are on Game Pass, it did get me curious. If there's only a couple of these games on here, then Xbox must know there's at least a small market for them. So, what are they actually like? Are they any good? Would I let my theoretical, non-existent children play them? And you know what? I actually would. 3 out of the 4 that I played were actually not that bad. And the 4th I'm mostly judging on things that I'm pretty sure most kids would not care about. I had come into this video thinking I'd get to play the haha, look at how bad these games are, let's laugh at them angle, but aside from a few things, these games are pretty accurate depictions of the source material that the developers clearly put a lot of love into developing. Whilst playing them, it was painfully obvious that I'm not the audience for them, but I'm pleasantly surprised. The games I played were Paw Patrol Mighty Pups Save Adventure Bay, try saying that 3 times fast, Paw Patrol World, My Friend Peppa Pig, and Bluey the video game. Each of these games was published by Outright Games, who are a UK-based publisher who focus solely on family-friendly titles. Presumably, Microsoft struck a Game Pass deal with Outright, and Outright chose which games from their portfolio to put onto the platform. Honestly, I think they made pretty good choices. Aside from Paw Patrol World, but again, I'm nitpicking as an adult, so it's whatever. Without further ado, let's get on to the first game that I played, which was Paw Patrol Mighty Pups Saved Adventure Bay. This game was released in 2020 and was produced by Drakkar Studios, who have worked with Outright Games quite a few times. In this game, the pups from the Paw Patrol end up with superpowers due to a meteor that hits Adventure Bay. They then, as you might expect, use these superpowers to help out the town. Now, I only played this game for about 15 minutes, but I have to say that I'm actually quite impressed with what I saw. This opening sequence, for example, really charming. It has nice animation, explains the plot in a way that is very accessible to kids who are playing games for the first time maybe, and I'm even quite impressed with how it goes from cinematic into the gameplay in less than 2 seconds. Look at that, that is so impressive. Now, as I've only done this first level, I can't speak for the rest of the game, but it looks like the gameplay consists of these semi-open levels where you need to use the Paw Patrol's unique abilities to clear obstacles and objectives while gathering up all the collectibles that you can. Whilst it's not exactly thrilling, the basic platforming and some easy quick-time events seem like they'd provide a good time for any kids that want an interactive experience of their favourite show. The presentation isn't half bad either. It looks like the show, the animation has character, and the voice acting is, well, it's kind of annoying, but it's for kids, so I'm not gonna take any points off for that. The level didn't take me long to complete either, and I got a nice 35 gamer score for my efforts. Not only that, this game actually has a bunch of mini-games to collect that you can do in multiplayer. I only got to try out the Dance Dance Revolution clone, and I'm not going to say that the music was good, but it is something that a kid would absolutely love. So yeah, this being the first of the 4 games that I played, this set the bar pretty high. The game looks good, it controlled well, and it was a good representation of the show it was trying to emulate. Obviously, as an adult, I wouldn't say it's the best game to play, but for a kid, I mean, it knocks it out of the park. Now, considering how impressed I was with this first game, it was a little bit of a shock when I came to Paw Patrol World next. Released in 2023, so 3 years later, I was expecting something equally good, if not better. However, I have to admit that at first glance, Paw Patrol World was kind of disappointing. Now, this game was made by 3D Worlds, so it's a different developer from the previous game, and I wouldn't say they did a bad job, but some things about this game kind of irked me. As a game itself, it's okay. It's an open world adventure game. You explore the open levels, you solve quests, you find mini-games, and you have complete freedom over which pup you play as, which, if I was a kid, I would go insane for. However, I have to say that the UI lacks the polish that Mighty Pups had, and in the game itself, it feels like the animation and the graphics are a bit sterile. But again, like, I'm an adult. If I was a kid, I probably wouldn't care. This is probably just a personal thing though, but it's like I can tell when a game was made in Unreal Engine, and I'm not always a fan of that. But for the average kid, it's clean and colourful, and it does the job. The gameplay isn't half bad either, and it lets you explore the whole area at your own pace, and there are other areas as well, and there's secrets and activities to find. I think gameplay-wise, this game might actually be better than Mighty Pups, but I just really don't like how it looks. However, what I cannot complain about is the gamer score. If you are an achievement hunter, go and play this game. It throws achievements at you. Because of course, it's never too early to get kids understanding the sense of pride and accomplishment. But yeah, that was the first 2 games I played, the 2 Paw Patrol games. I think they're pretty okay. I think that Paw Patrol World is perhaps a little too sterile feeling for my tastes, but honestly, I am not the intended audience, and that's okay. It's something that I've had to keep in mind a lot as I play these games, because I'm trying to look at them through an adult lens when they're not made for adults. And I think this becomes very poignant, especially as we go into the next 2 games, which is My Friend Peppa Pig and Bluey the video game. So, going into the Peppa Pig game, I think this is where it becomes the most obvious how much these games were not built for 26-year-old me. My thoughts on this game are a bit of a mixed bag, but again, this is a game made for very young children. To my knowledge, Peppa Pig is targeted at like 4 to 6-year-olds, so I'm keeping that in mind. The game itself is actually quite interesting in some aspects. It doesn't seem to have a particular story or goal. You literally just get to build your own Peppa Pig style character and walk around the world, interacting with all the characters and doing small tasks. The title is quite accurate. You get to be friends with Peppa and hang out with her. Admittedly, from what I saw in the show, Peppa is kind of a brat, but you know, the show has been running since 2004, so it must be doing something right. The way the game is designed means you can do whatever you want at any time, plus it looks and feels like an episode of the cartoon. Seriously, the translation of the art style is insane. Though, because of how the game plays, to me it felt a bit sort of directionless, but I think that's also the point. It's a bit of a sandbox, and a kid who loves Peppa Pig is gonna love this. Something I will note, however, is that sometimes the game just doesn't have any background music. I can't recall if that's accurate to the cartoon, but it's kind of eerie sometimes. Obviously, I'm showing the footage without any sound, but I genuinely found it a bit weird sometimes just hearing no music as I plodded around the screen. But on the bright side, this game is also very generous about its achievements. As you can see, it just gave me 80 gamer score for doing this save George's dinosaur thing that took me literally about 30 in-game seconds. So, you know, there's definitely good with the bad. Now, I would say, compared to the Paw Patrol games, this definitely feels less like a game and more like an interactive episode of the show. Whether that's a good or a bad thing is probably up to the player. I think for kids, it's absolutely great. Probably not so much for an adult or an adult who might be watching their kids play. But much like the Paw Patrol games, there is clearly a lot of love put into making this accurate to the show, and this trend thankfully continues as we go on to the final game, which is Bluey, the video game. Now, I do have to be completely honest here. I actually quite like Bluey just as a show. Once or twice I have put episodes on if I need simple background noise or if I can't sleep. It is simplistic and it's charming without being over the top, and the game emulates that vibe perfectly. From my short play session, it seems like the Bluey game kind of achieved a nice mix between what Paw Patrol was trying to do with their games and what Peppa Pig was trying to do with that game. It feels like an episode of the show with total free roam, but there's also a slight push to follow some short stories and collect items scattered around the world. You can play as any member from Bluey's family, and frankly, it's quite well done. Not only this, the sound design is also amazing, the UI is kid-friendly but matches the vibe perfectly, and as you can see, they've emulated the design of the cartoon in such a loving way. I only ran around the main house area at the start of the game, but honestly, as simple as the game might be, I'm actually kind of tempted to just play the game because it feels very lovingly put together. It's not quite as simple as the Peppa Pig game, and I think it's got more charm to it than the Paw Patrol ones. It's obviously not designed for someone my age, but even so, I actually found it quite joyful to play. I think, looking at all 4 of the games I played for this video, this and Mighty Pups might come out on top. Even though Paw Patrol World has that cool open world thing, and Peppa Pig was so accurate to the original cartoon, I think sometimes there's just something charming about certain games and they pull you in. Honestly, I think this whole video has kind of changed my mind on the state of kid-friendly games. It goes to show that just because these kind of games have historically not been great, there are companies and developers that care about it. So there we have it, folks. A short but sweet video where I tried the Game Pass kids games so you don't have to. I'm not sure if I'd go and tell any fellow adults to rush out and download them, but as an experience to share with your kids or younger family members, I would definitely recommend them. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate a like, a comment, and a subscribe. And actually, in the comments, let me know if you know of any kids games that are kind of hidden gems. I'd be really intrigued to find out. But either way, thanks again, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.